verb. 5 nouns. Yes?
We don't have to do the sentence or these other extra.
Nope, just the 5 nouns and the verb. And can somebody hit the lights? We're going to look really blue if we don't turn the lights.
Question about a verb, swimming, to swim, because it's different in this one to the verb diction.
Yeah, so when we get in, there's a few things we're going to get into is sometimes the specifics of motion verbs. But one thing is swimming is animals like a seal or a fish, they swim like this underwater, and some people do, but most people slap the top of the water, so the verb means to slap yourself around, or to slap around.
Is that
to touch. Okay. Yeah, so that would be the one to use for a person swimming. People swim differently than animals.
There was this word I was going to use. It was in the verb dictionary, and I was strong-minded, but I wasn't sure if I should do that, so I just chose another one.
Oh, okay. And there are a couple things we'll get to. Some things to be like strong-willed or strong-minded or sometimes proud. There's sensitive subjects in Tlingit because whenever you're speaking Tlingit, the general rule of thumb is you don't brag about yourself. Is you're always careful to not even suggest that I might possibly be bragging about myself. And so some of those things are really sensitive. And so it's interesting because when we speak English, we do want to have like native pride and Tlingit pride and proud of who you are and regardless of who you are. But when you're speaking Tlingit, those actions are sort of shown by understanding how you're related to people. So that's a really important concept. And there are some things that you might encounter like Tobutlitsin, but they're good things to know, like courage or strength of spirit. But as we go through these different words that we're learning, sometimes we'll stop and talk about the cultural context of them. Like, to be strong of spirit is something that you might use, or to be courageous. To talk to somebody and say, you were really brave during that moment. The other thing is if somebody's really struggling, there's things that you can, in Tlingit you express a lot of things directly to people, which sometimes can feel jarring in the English-speaking world. Like if somebody's giving a speech, you might yell something at them, right? And this is the traditional, especially if they're your clan opposite. It's really, we try to focus on those things as far as how the language traditionally functions. The other thing is if somebody's really struggling, you might say, have strength of spirit. You're commanding them to be strong. But what that command is really doing is you're trying to elevate somebody and to give them courage. Other things like would be I'm proud. But then the thing you would want to say is what you're proud of. Like, I'm proud of the way you did your work. I'm proud. You're usually proud of somebody else. You're not just basically proud. And so those are a couple things. And when we get to your words and we start sharing them, take me probably a day or two. Although I have some minions I could put on the case now. A couple years ago I taught without minions, so maybe. Slaves to the language. It'll be typed, and we'll start going. We'll also go over much more in that by time. Words, if some of them need more explaining, then we'll talk about them. Anybody else got any observations, questions they want to share?
Like my Somalia name, it's Garam Tibin, which means heart of a sea lion.
Uh-huh.
Just when I was given the name, it was described to me as I look shy, but when I see my target, I go straight for it.
Ah, okay. So we could say, we can use that. So if you wanted a Tlingit, we can make a Tlingit equivalent to that.
Mm-hmm.
What would you prefer?
I would just prefer to go by my Shmaliut name.
Okay, and how do you spell that?
Actually, there's no set spelling on Shmaliut because there's the Alaska version and the Canadian version. They haven't settled on spelling.
If you tell it to me probably about 12 times, I could spell it in Tlingit so that we're all reading and writing the same system.
Yes.
So what is it again?
Gadam Tibin. Gadam means heart, and Tibin is sea lion.
Tabin?
Tibin.
Okay. Well, there's no B in Tlingit, but we'll put one in there for you. Okay. Which brings us, those of you and then on the phone we have Yesh. Is it Yesh Uch Kla?
Yesh Uch Kla.
Okay. And Jasmine, tell me your Tlingit name again.
Gage.
Gage. Okay. So I will make some little name cards. Those of you in the room, you have a little white piece of paper here. Fold it in half. Lengthwise, a little crease. I got the perfect number. Hand it down. Okay, so now give it a nice crease. We fold it. This is the way, so it looks kind of like a book. Fold it lengthwise. Okay, so now we're going to open it up and fold to the crease. And then you'll flip it over, do the same thing on the other side. So now what you've ended up with is a particular triangle. So what we are going to do, the purpose of this, and I'll send a list out to those of you online. I'll try and put it on I'll just send it through email. Using the black marker here, you're going to write your Tlingit name. So we can start using them. We'll start practicing them probably tomorrow. And if you need help spelling them, we can work on that now. So here's the marker going. If anybody else has a marker. Markers work better than pens because we've got to be able to see it across.
No, I think this is incorrect. So I have a count.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, it's challenging.
I forgot to ask. I think it's SHUWUTEEN. But you remember it being different, right? Yeah, Shuwuteen. 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 And it's one word. It should be one word. Oh, so write it on. Okay, sorry. So, everybody got 5 nouns and a verb? Let's just go around real quick and tell me why you chose. You don't have to read them all, but just tell me why you chose. Well, actually, no, just tell me what you picked, or tell me why you selected the words that you did. We'll practice them starting tomorrow or the next time. And we'll start with Shuwuteen. You did not pick words. Okay, so you need to pick 5 nouns and a verb. You get them. So these are words that you are going to, there'll be 12 of them all together. And in a few weeks you'll stand up and you'll recite them in front of everybody. So these are the words that you're deciding to commit to memory. I don't know if I really specified this, but if you look through the lessons of beginning Tlingit, especially the first 2 lessons, those are all off limits. So I don't know if I mentioned that. Which if I failed to mention that, we might have to adjust. I thought I said it, but maybe I didn't. Yeah, because if we're already learning them as a class, it doesn't really make sense for you to choose them. So this would be in addition to the words we're already using. So if we end up with some repetition, I might just have you pick a couple. Okay. So as far as, you might have a philosophy or an approach to this. Usually it works best. Students that I've seen that I suspected just sort of randomly open the dictionary to certain pages because all the words happen to start with like the same letter. That usually was less effective than students who had some sort of pattern, whether it was learning, I want to learn all these names of ducks because I love watching ducks, or I do beadwork, so I'm going to learn needle and thread and all these different things. So usually if there's some reasoning behind it, that typically helps you remember. When you stand up to recite your words, you can't use any notes of any kind, but I've had students who wanted to write them on the board before they said them. That's totally fine. I've had students who drew a picture and told a story while they read them. That's totally fine. Yeah, so how about, and you got to say your name for me.
Oh, Ditmagalda.
Ditmagalda? Okay.
So I'm going to say the noun.
Oh, you don't have to read that.
Oh,
just tell me why you picked the ones that you did. Just if there was some sort of group or how you went about the process. And then we'll all practice them together.
So I say like the English one, and then say why.
Oh, you just sort of just say, you don't have to tell me what you picked.
I chose my word, these words, because I thought at the time, like, when I went very deep in what was what I saw like during that time. One of them is coffee.
Nice, nice. Okay, great.
Okay, I chose words related to water because I noticed there were a lot of words that stemmed off of the one word, the water. I don't know if that's a pattern in the language or if it's just because we're starting the water in Southeast, but that's kind of.
Yeah, and we'll see later. Yeah, water is a big deal in the language, for sure. Okay. Okay.
My name is Kayla. I picked the animals just because I love animals.
Okay.
So amazing.
Okay.
I picked words that I already knew.
That's probably an effective strategy.
I just picked some trees.
Great. Oh, yes.
I picked animals as if I were a tracker. Track animals.
Oh, okay.
Basically land animals, crows and bears and ravens and porcupines.
Okay. So a couple of things to keep in mind. And we'll turn it over to our online folks. But we do have folks on the phone and on the internet. So we haven't done a whole lot of sort of one-on-one speaking type stuff. Just my general philosophy is we do stuff as a group, and after a while I start picking on you and start gaining a little confidence, get to know each other a little bit. But do keep in mind that there's microphones there and there's the satellites for the phone, but you do have to keep your voice higher than usual in order to be heard. And it's only fair that we speak nice and loud because then I can hear how things are going and also everybody can stay tuned in. Especially if we do some sort of round the room type stuff. Sometimes we might say later in the semester, say, okay, let's just name a bunch of words and keep going until we run out of words. But then it's not fair to people who can't hear because we're being quiet. So we gotta keep it nice. All right, let's start with Yesh Ujkla. What words did you select and what was your reason for it?
years ago, I used to go to fish camp when I guess I was a teenager and on. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, good. So I chose fish camp words.
Oh, okay. Sheesh.
Do you?
Oh, you have to go over them. Oh, you know, and then gauge.
So I chose clothing because as a mom with little kids that are learning the language as well, I find myself saying the same things over and over in the morning. And so I thought if I started there with my Tlingit, then maybe I would be able to use it more and it would really sink in. So I did all clothes so I can throw pants at my kids and say, put those on.
Excellent. Sheesh. And Gadam Tabin, I know I said that wrong. Can you say it one more time?
Gadam Tabin.
Gadam Tabin. Okay.
I chose family members, and the reason why I chose that was I always consider myself putting family first. I wanted to learn family.
Great. Great. Wonderful. All right, so everybody just pass your words around this way. If you don't have them, get them to me right away.
My question, do you want us, on this name thing, do you want us to write our names?
Yes, yes. So for your names, yeah, we're going to retire our English names this week. And so historically, I've had students who would like never write anything as where it says name. And then other times, like late in the semester, they'd write their English name, and I had to figure out who it was. Yeah. All right. I do want to say one thing, jumping ahead a little bit, because some kinship terms were chosen. I do want to say one thing about kinship terms. There's a concept in Tlingit, which linguistically we'd call alienability, which really just means does it need to belong to something. And there are a couple things that always need to belong to something. Can anybody guess what those are? Body parts, right? So a body part, and the reason this is important, whenever you look up a body part, like if I looked in the Tlingit dictionary for heart or hand or eye, it would always say du right before it, du. And that means his or her. But what that means is usually in this dictionary, especially the Edwards dictionary, is the du is not bold, and then the word jin for hand would be bold. What that means is the du can be replaced by any other pronoun, you know, my, your, his or her, our, their, y'all's. But the pronoun needs to be there. It won't exist without a pronoun, except in there's certain situations where some of them could, but usually they don't. There's another way that these are written, which is with a long, what we call an M dash, which is a really long dash, and then the word right after. That means it needs to belong to something. The other one is kinship terms. So in Tlingit, you wouldn't just say, usually if you're talking about somebody, if you're using a kinship term, like you're saying my mother, then you would say ach kla. So kla would be the term for mother, ach would be my. But there should be some pronoun in there, his or her, somebody's, my, your, our. With kinship, there is a few of them that have an exception, and that's when you're talking directly to that person. So if you were my mom, I could say kla, or I could say atli. And that means I'm talking directly to you. So this is the difference between my mom and mom, right? And so these are a couple things to just start to think about because it'll factor into how we look up words, how we think about them, and we'll study those in a little bit. Everybody good? Okay. So we are going to take a look at some handouts. Let me share my screen here. Let me send you some, well, so this is all from lesson 1. So starting from lesson 1 and from the handout for lesson 1, which you guys should have, and Somebody remind me where that starts? Especially when we get to, let's just jump straight to this, to the nouns. What page is this on in your handout? Middle top. It's page 15. So we're on Jinpat Kakejin. Page 15. So when we left off here the other day, this is where we left off. So our process here is we're going to look at the image. The word for it is going to pop up. I'll say it. You repeat it. We'll do it 4 times. After the 4th time, I will say das away, and your answer will be the name of the thing plus away. So we're number 1 is we're learning names for these things. Number 2 is we're learning how to answer a basic question. What is that? That is blank. Okay? So remember, on that 4th one, you're not repeating me. So if I say das away, you don't say das away. You would say blank away. And so we'll practice it with this one. Everybody look at that thing. Oh, hold on, I gotta answer some weird question. Okay. Atdaye. 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 Das away. Okay, so away. So the other thing is, everybody put your hands to your chest. Aya. Hands out. Away. Aya. Away. Okay, so it has to do with it's here or it's over there. Right, those are a couple of basic things. Tuss. 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 Das away. Okay. Shawat. 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 Das away. Shawat. Ah. 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 Das away. Okay. Ichte. 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 Das away. Te. 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 Das away. Saved. 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 Das away. Okay. Sheye. 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 Das away. Tikitkiya. 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 Das away. Okay. Tikitkiya. Dekinach inach daktaktiya. In Haida, it's daktaktiya. It came up like hit. 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 Hit.
It.
Das away.
It away.
Okay. Ayaudity.
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 Das away.
Ayaudity away.
So this one is also a verb. It means to be stormy or windy. It doesn't mean like the wind is sort of just calm. It's like windy, like blowing stuff around. Nukshiyan.
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 Dakaka'a. Shukshiyan.
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 So for the answer, we'll just use the first one. Das away.
Nukshiyan away.
Okay. In Teslin, they say Shukshiyan. I think in Carcross as well. Good.
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 Das away.
Good away.
Whoosh. Whoosh ya ye.
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 Das away.
Whoosh ya ye away.
Una.
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 Das away.
Una away.
So anybody notice anything about this word?
Verb.
It ends with AA, so there's probably there's a verb right before that. What do you think that means? To shoot. Right? It's the shooter. No, those would be different. Well, it's a different noun, but I don't know if that's a different verb or not. I'll check. So I don't know if you would. I don't think you would. Maybe. That's a good question. I'll check. I'll get back to it. Yai.
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 Das away.
Yai away.
Yao.
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 Das away.
Yao away.
E.
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 Das away.
E away.
Okay. See you.
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 Das away.
See you away.
Okay. New.
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 Das away.
New away.
Yana eight.
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 Ya.
Das away.
Away.
Yak.
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 Das away.
Yak. Away.
Okay. So when you see that W at the end, we're doing this little breath of air with our lips pursed at the end of the sound. The one thing you watch for though is make sure you don't round your mouth too quickly, so you don't go yao, ya. Right? So it doesn't affect the vowel. Saknain.
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 So the KW in the middle of a word is pretty rare, but the one thing we make sure is we're not voicing it, so we're not saying sakunain, but we're saying saknain, and they're just running together. Saknain. Das away. Cheech.
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 Das away.
Cheech. Away.
Da.
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 Das away.
Away.
Okay. So you notice the tone difference. We go das away as opposed to da away. So we're keeping an eye on that tone because there's da sa. So that first part da, which means what. There's another word which might come after something. Like you say da da, which would be around the ermine. You could say da sa da da. Well, I don't know if you could say it. Da sa da da. I don't know why you would ever say it, but you could say, what is that? What is around the ermine? Never say it because it'd be too weird. Gao.
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 Das away.
Gao. Away.
So there's also several words in Tlingit that have multiple meanings. So this could be a drum, which is its original meaning. It could also be a clock. It could also be a bell. It could also be time, right? So if it's 1 o'clock, you could say tek gao, 1 drum. It would translate to 1 o'clock. A friend of mine, Dash Ginny, she made a Tlingit rap about Elizabeth Pradovich. It's awesome. But I really want to make her like a little necklace that's a drum with a clock painted on it, because that is hilarious. Heen. 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 Das away.
Away.
So that could be water in a cup, or that could be a river or a creek. What's that? Yes, that's a, which could be ocean water, the ocean, or salt. But yeah, so when you say heen, you're talking about clean, drinkable water, is usually. Junwu.
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 Das away.
Junwu. Away.
Cocaine.
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 Das away.
Cocaine. Away.
Nusk.
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 Das away.
News away.
Anybody ever seen one of these?
Yeah.
Ever? I've only seen two in my whole life. Sock.
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 Das away.
Sock away.
Shaw.
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 Das away.
Shaw away.
Tia.
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 Das away.
Tia away.
Wasus.
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 Das away.
Wasus away.
Yak.
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 Das away.
Yak away.
We doing okay? Seek.
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 Das away.
Seek away.
So if you're talking about maybe your daughter, you might say ach seek. So it'd have that hard pinched K at the end. If you're talking about a black bear, you'd say eek. So it has the pinched S in its low tone, and then seek. No pinched consonants and a high tone is a balance. I think one time I tried to tell a story about a black bear, and I used all three of those. And I was just talking about the black bears. Donna.
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 Das away.
Donna away.
Kawoot.
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 Das away.
Kawoot away.
Dis.
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 Das away.
Dis away.
Keshish.
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 Das away.
Keshish away.
Okay. Everybody knows what that one is? Alder. On.
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 Das away.
On away.
So it could mean a town, it could mean land. In most instances, it's used to say, usually there's people there, it seems like, the majority of the time. But it could be just like, you could say Tlingit Ani, like Tlingit land, Tlingit Ani, the world. So it's, but a lot of times it's used to refer to a village. More often it seems like than to land itself. Oh, I guess that's it. So that's our first group of words. We'll keep working on this set. We're working on dasaya and then answering with blank, or das away and then answering with blank away. So it's a fill in the blank type of thing, which is really what we're looking at in a number of different instances. So we start learning these things and we start applying these different patterns. So it's a multi-step process. One is you're learning these different names. So this is what this is called. This is what this is called. This is what this is called. And those flashcards are now on tlingit.info. If you want to make those flashcards, just print them, you just cut them out, and you can walk around with them. They have the pictures on them. Also, you can rewatch these sessions if you wanted to practice along with the class. They're on YouTube. And then, so what we're going to start doing now is we'll keep working on this with these. We'll use some of those cards in the class. We might introduce a couple of stuffed animals and other types of props that would match along with the things that we're learning. The other instance is, so what we'll do is we'll go through one more time. But this time, if I say, so we got to just sort of use our imagination for this one. So if I say da saya, then the answer is going to be blank away. So if I say da saya, that means I'm holding it, and then you're talking about it. And this works much better with props, which we'll start doing a little bit tomorrow. But then from now on, when I say das away, you got to pay attention to where this thing is located. So when we start doing these drills, when we're actually holding these different objects, and we'll use the pictures, these little pictures that we had. I'll bring those in. For those of you online, if you can print some of those pictures, and I'll have you hold on to specific ones. Because then if I were to hold up, for example, if I had a dime, and if I said da saya, you could point at it and say, gut away. And if you were holding a dollar, and I said das away, then you would say dana aya. So the other thing we're paying attention to is where these things are and what the appropriate response is to give based on where they are. Any questions? Okay. So let's run through these one more time. Let's just stick with the das away since we don't have the props in here yet. So I'll ask das away, and you'll answer with away still. Das away. 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 Yai. Das away. 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 Das away.
away.
Das away.
Away.
Das away.
Away.
Das away.
Away.
Das away.
Away.
Das away.
Away.
Das away.
Loose. Away.
Das away.
Sock. Away.
Das away.
Shaw. Away.
Das away.
Tia. Away.
Das away.
Sus. Away.
Das away.
Ya. Away.
Das away.
Si. Away.
Das away.
Donna. Away.
Das away.
Coat. Away.
Das away.
Dis. Away.
Das away.
Shish. Away.
Das away.
On. Away.
Oh. Queja, dicen okay. All right. 5 minutes left. So at the beginning of this lesson was how to form some basic questions. So looking back, let's see, let me drag this up. So dasa is the basis of this first question that we learned, right? So and there's a variety of uses you can use for this one. Dasa ituwasaku. What do you want? Datatinaksa. What do you need? Dasa way. What is that? Dasa you. What is that thing that I hear? Like if it's dark and you hear something in the bushes, maybe. So going through, looking back at this chart, you know, sa is the particle that makes the question, right? So you need the sa in there. And what we'll learn is sometimes things go in between the first particle and the second particle. So the da and the sa. So we got da sa etuwasaku. What do you want? What we would say, dat etinech sa iyati. What do you need? So we start getting into some word order things, and like kunsa is how many, but I might say kunya. Let me look at my. Let me see what do I have for that one. Kundanasa yitlak. How much money did you get? Right. So again, kundanasa yitlak. So sometimes you're going to have things that pop in between, and it'll start to make sense the more you see them, right? So this one, yitlak, is to obtain or to win. Like if you're playing card games or something, you say, yahwadlak, I won. And you throw your money on the table, or I guess you take the money, and then you take out. And we see here the verb root, the verb, and the verb phrase. So we start thinking about things, we're starting to learn how to look for verbs, even though the first phrases we'll be using and learning in this class won't contain verbs. The first verb we get to is going to be to see something, right? And so the progression is going to be, what is this? What is that? What do you have? And then having those, it's a verbless thing in Tlingit. And we'll see it's a big difference whether there's a verb or not, because verbs are big scary monsters, and so it's interesting to see when, you know, you got to learn a whole bunch of stuff to use without using verbs. And some of that could be interjections as well. Like those of you who've been around Tlingit, you might have heard some of the things like ha'eh or gla or these things like that. And we'll talk about those so you can start using them. They're called interjections, and that's when you need to communicate something really quickly. You know, like someone might say, "Oh my," or they might say something a lot worse than that. And there's a lot of things you could say in Tlingit, and they reveal a lot within the language. A lot of these interjections can be used to signal either it's too much for me to sort of communicate right away, or I'm teasing you about something. Usually, like you're getting sort of, what do they say? You're getting too big for your britches, or I'm disappointed in you. Those seem to be the top things that you use some of the interjections for. But they could also be great pain, surprise, joy, laughter, things like that. And they're really handy to have, especially when we start bringing games in and other things where you stay in the language through the games. And interjections are a great way to stay in the language. And you can use them for a lot of things. So as you're going around just sort of in the community and thinking about how to use language and how to keep language a part of your life, the interjections are a part, and starting to use these questions. So one of the things that really helps for learners is to carry the dictionary around or download it on your smartphone or tablets and just walk around with someone who's interested in the language. And you can do DOS away, and you could just start looking things up too, so you can start challenging each other to continue learning. So we have this block of things which is our building base, but if you feel like you want to go faster than that, go faster than that. If you feel like you want to just stick to that, then just stick to that. But within the next couple of weeks, you should, all those nouns we just went through, you should, if I gave you a sheet that says match this to the word, you should be able to do that with 100% accuracy. So focus on these words, but also look for things to fill that gap. So every hour we spend in here, we should be spending a couple hours outside the class still doing language. And I know everything competes. I know the college situation, but let Tlingit dominate your world, because nobody lets it dominate, so we got to be the ones who let it just dominate. Questions? Sheesh. See you guys tomorrow. Sheesh.